Macy. In a move that has caught Hollywood by complete surprise, insiders are whispering that Justin Baldoni, widely recognized for his blend of on-screen talent and behind-the-camera ambitions, has brought on the very same attorney who once represented Blake Lively. Even more startling is the claim that this lawyer might be feeding Justin privileged information, sparking widespread curiosity about what exactly he aims to achieve. It's a twist that could easily fit into the kind of high-wire Hollywood drama many recall from Amber Heard's legal entanglements. A public dispute, swirling rumors, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering that calls everyone's integrity into question. Now the buzz is centered on this explosive rumor that Justin, after weathering his own controversies, has apparently found a way to gain insight into matters that most outsiders believed were confidential. In an industry where alliances can turn on a dime, the possibility that he's gaining tips from Blake's own representation has piqued the interest of fans, skeptics, and gossip columnists alike. From the outside, this could sound like a wild claim. After all, attorneys in Hollywood normally maintain staunch loyalty to their clients, safeguarding behind closed-doors discussions with an almost ironclad sense of professional secrecy. Yet here we are, with countless onlookers suggesting that Justin's leap to hire Blake's lawyer is far from an innocent professional engagement. Could it be a shrewd move that gives Justin an advantage over any future legal standoff with Blake? Could it be connected to broader issues about controlling the narrative surrounding their film project? Or could it even mark the start of a new partnership intended to shield him from any possible fallout? The speculation is intense. The storyline has an uncanny resemblance to the type of chaos that once blew up around Amber Heard, where leaked communications, contradictory statements, and strategic legal maneuvers kept the public guessing about who was truly pulling the strings. In Justin's case, the overarching question remains, what does he stand to gain from enlisting this high-profile figure from Blake's orbit? To grasp the magnitude of this moment, one should recall how Justin and Blake initially came together for a highly anticipated movie based on a best-selling novel. Early glimpses promised a heartfelt narrative helmed by Justin, who had established himself not just as a director, but also as a co-writer and sometimes an actor in his own projects. Blake, revered for her warm personality and luminous presence on screen, seemed an ideal fit for a role that would demand emotional nuance. For a while, fans were beside themselves with excitement, convinced that Justin's gentle storytelling approach and Blake's star power would create cinematic gold. I internalized that as opportunity. Soon as production began, rumors about friction between them started seeping through the cracks. Tales of disagreements over scripts, possible pressure during publicity campaigns, and hints that each side felt stifled by the other flew around. Supporters initially tried to dismiss these as overblown gossip, but in a plot twist reminiscent of the revelations that once upended Amber Heard's public image, a set of messages attributed to Blake surfaced, followed soon by a second wave that drastically altered the interpretation of her claims. The friction quickly overshadowed even the film's storyline, with fans more curious about the real-life drama than the adaptation itself. At first, some observers rallied around Blake, pointing out that Hollywood often places female leads under a microscope. Others, especially once new evidence emerged, began to see a more nuanced picture, one that suggested Blake might not be merely a victim, but also a calculating figure behind certain narrative spins. Meanwhile, Justin countered these allegations through measured responses, open invitations to examine the entire conversation history, and a refusal to personally attack his co-star. Then, to the astonishment of those following the saga, Blake's own attorney stepped away, issuing a statement that alluded to inconsistencies in her account. In Hollywood, attorneys rarely give up on clients without a compelling reason. It's part of their job to craft workable strategies, or, if possible, settle matters quietly. The abrupt decision and its public nature led to serious damage to Blake's credibility. This move echoed pivotal moments in the Amber Heard controversies, where public trust started to erode once critical members of her circle showed signs of doubt. The meltdown seemed unstoppable, raising questions about whether Justin was in fact the one telling the more consistent story all along. Production staff began chiming in too, speaking of behaviors that left them uneasy, some describing how her mood could veer unexpectedly. The swirl of confusion thickened, and producers grew concerned about moving forward on any large-scale project involving either star. Unsure if the drama would overshadow the work, no one would have guessed that a new explosive rumor was about to rock the situation. Justin apparently decided to hire the very attorney who had walked away from Blake's team. Initially, the news arrived as an unverified tip, whispered around executive meetings and gleaned from hush-hush dinner gatherings. Yet as days passed, more credible signals emerged, suggesting that this was not mere hearsay. The attorney's presence in Justin's sphere started to raise eyebrows, mainly because the abrupt departure from Blake's team had been cast in a light that suggested her statements lacked verifiable substance. Now, that same legal figure had joined Justin's corner, spurring theories that Justin might be gleaning insider details about Blake's legal stances, potential vulnerabilities, and any unpublicized evidence she might plan to use. Public reaction was swift and dramatic. For fans who had been rooting for Justin, this move was celebrated as a stroke of genius, to ensure that the story going forward would be accurately represented, but for others, it was a troubling sign, reminiscent of the sort of behind-the-scenes maneuvers that can taint the creative process with suspicion. Hollywood watchers compared it to the labyrinth of claims and counterclaims that once surrounded Amber Heard. There, too, the presence of attorneys with shifting allegiances introduced confusion, fueling speculation that personal vendettas, rather than verifiable facts, were guiding the narrative. Might Justin's decision be part of a larger strategy to tilt any future conflict in his favor? Adding to the spectacle, rumors circulated that Justin's new legal hire had not merely joined his team for standard counsel, but might actually be passing privileged details gathered during previous representation of Blake. While such a scenario is often considered an ethical boundary for attorneys, the entertainment industry is rife with stories about questionable alliances when reputations and enormous sums of money are on the line. A few outlets argued that the attorney could have gleaned critical data during discussions with Blake, data that might prove pivotal if new disputes surface. Skeptics wondered whether the attorney's confidentiality obligations had been waived or compromised in some manner. Was there a possibility that the lawyer's departure was orchestrated specifically to make this pivot credible? The swirl of theories continued to grow, fueling conversation threads on social media platforms and setting fan bases into heated debates over authenticity and betrayal. In the midst of all this, Justin himself, through official channels, kept to a carefully worded line, never confirming or denying the specifics of this rumored alliance. Instead, he reiterated his commitment to transparency, recalling how he had consistently published full transcripts of relevant conversations during the earlier drama with Blake. He assured fans that he was focused on finishing the movie in a respectful environment, especially considering the emotional themes at its core. Yet the question of the attorney's role loomed large. Why hire someone so intimately connected with Blake's side of the story? Was it purely about harnessing a legal mind with proven experience? Or did it speak to a deeper quest for knowledge that could give him an edge? Not surprisingly, whispers also sprang up about potential tensions between this attorney and the rest of Justin's team. Although the attorney once held a reputation for fierce advocacy on behalf of high-profile clients, skeptics wondered whether the original falling out with Blake might signal that the lawyer's reliability or loyalty was questionable. If the attorney was willing to sever ties with one star client in a very public way, was Justin at risk of facing a similar fallout down the line? In this sense, parallels to Amber Heard's controversies are once again impossible to ignore. In Heard's case, swirling alliances and abrupt legal reshuffles contributed significantly to public mistrust, as each side tried to shape the narrative using selectively released pieces of evidence. Could Justin find himself in the same entangled scenario if the attorney's motivations were not strictly above board? In a place as image-conscious as Hollywood, public sentiment is everything. If people come to believe that Justin's moves are less about fairness and more about controlling any future scandal, they might start questioning his authenticity. On the other hand, if a mountain of conflicting evidence emerges, some of it procured by the lawyer in question, that dismantles Blake's story piece by piece, Justin could walk away looking like the wronged party who protected his reputation through smart, legal decisions. Either outcome would be divisive, guaranteed to inflame debate. The tension between protecting oneself and exploiting privileged knowledge may define how Justin's decision is interpreted in the longer run. Meanwhile, fans of Blake argue that she has become a target. Her every statement dissected in a way that might not happen to a male lead. They recall how the swirl around Amber Heard similarly involved a tidal wave of public commentary, with some labeling Heard manipulative, and others suggesting she was a mistreated figure in a power imbalance. The dynamic might be repeating here. A high-profile actress feeling cornered by a system that can turn on her the moment new evidence or reframed perspectives emerge. From their standpoint, the attorney's defection to Justin's side encapsulates what's broken about Hollywood. A system that can, at times, revolve around who holds the most sway, and is willing to push the hardest behind the scenes. But those closer to Justin maintained that he felt blindsided by accusations that he never saw coming, accusations that could have tarnished both his career and the film's success. From that angle, choosing to hire Blake's former lawyer could be viewed as a purely defensive maneuver. If this attorney has knowledge of certain claims that may be brought against Justin in the future, then employing them might be the best path to ensure he has a robust response. Yes, it raises questions about loyalty and ethics. But in an environment where reputations rise and fall on the spin of a single story, it might also be a realistic way to guard one's interests. Amid all these swirling factors, it's easy to forget that the actual film project once promised an emotionally riveting narrative. The overshadowing controversies have made the work itself feel like a footnote, overshadowed by the sensational headlines that keep rolling out. Much as Amber Heard's film roles became secondary to her widely reported disputes, Blake and Justin now face a reality where the public can't help but focus more on their off-camera friction than on any cinematic achievements they hope to deliver. Observers have pointed out that if the final product ever sees the light of day, it'll likely be accompanied by curiosity more about the backstage drama than the actual performances. The real test may come if official documents confirm the rumored attorney hire. If that occurs, the conversation will no longer revolve around speculation, but move into how it impacts any legal proceedings, especially if Blake decides to file new statements or claims. Industry lawyers will be keenly interested in whether there is an attempted injunction preventing the attorney from sharing privileged conversations. Such a move could pave the way for a complicated legal standoff, one in which the boundaries of attorney-client privilege and the responsibilities of professional confidentiality become a central theme. And the entire sequence would further remind everyone in Hollywood that an attorney's loyalty might hinge as much on broader strategic opportunity as it does on tradition. At this moment, the story remains in flux. Justin's rumored alliance with Blake's former lawyer has ignited a flurry of discussions in industry circles. But conclusive evidence remains scarce, and official statements have been elusive. Blake, for her part, has not addressed the newest turn of events, at least not publicly. Whether that silence implies planning behind closed doors, or a deliberate choice to let the rumor mill spin, is anybody's guess. Some say that she's gathering her resources to counter the attorney's involvement, while others suspect she's relieved to have the lawyer off her team. After all, if the lawyer was prepared to side with Justin, maybe their continued presence would have been more of a liability than an asset. Regardless of the reason, one thing is clear. This rumored decision on Justin's part has altered the landscape. It has recast him from a director calmly defending himself with comprehensive text logs into someone possibly orchestrating a grand plan behind the scenes. With fans' emotions already stirred by months of contradictory claims, seeing him enlist the help of Blake's former ally complicates matters even further. Some will say it's evidence of cunning, others will see it as a stroke of brilliance and self-preservation. And perhaps both impressions hold a measure of truth, especially when navigating an industry that thrives on perception, deals in secrets. I was testing verse show, not the first time we've witnessed such strategic positioning in Hollywood, nor is it likely to be the last. Many recall the ongoing sense of shock that accompanied Amber Heard's story. Every time new revelations emerged that conflicted with prior statements, each leak and legal switchback triggered fresh scrutiny, eventually reshaping public sentiment multiple times. Now, with Justin seemingly leveraging the insight of an attorney who knows Blake's legal playbook, the parallels are hard to miss. It highlights that, yet again, we're dealing with a situation in which every piece of evidence, every text message, every rumor of behind-the-scenes dealings can push the pendulum of public opinion in a new direction. In the short term, watchers anticipate that tension on set and among industry insiders will only intensify. It's one thing to have disagreements about a production's creative direction or budget. It's another to suspect that your colleague has recruited an attorney with insider knowledge of your potential moves. As the film trudges toward eventual completion or potential derailment, everyone involved must grapple with the trust factor. If folks feel there's a funnel of secret information shaping outcomes, collaboration becomes nearly impossible. For Justin, the wager might be that the benefits outweigh the downsides if, indeed, the attorney helps him avoid the fate that once befell other stars entangled in high-stakes controversies. For fans and audiences, the final outcome remains unpredictable. Will this rumored collaboration lead to a definitive blow in the ongoing dispute, leaving Justin unassailable and Blake marginalized, or will it boomerang, generating further backlash against both Justin and the attorney for crossing delicate professional boundaries? All we know is that the stage is set for more upheaval, as each side maneuvers in a spectacle reminiscent of the drama that consumed Amber Heard's personal and professional life. Each new leak, statement, or legal revelation has the potential to invert public perception yet again. Regardless of which narrative ultimately proves closest to the truth, Hollywood's capacity for reinvention and spectacle ensures that the final reveal, if it ever arrives, will be as dramatic as anything we see on the big screen. In sum, the question at the heart of it all is this: did Justin Baldoni really hire Blake Lively's former lawyer to siphon off crucial data? If so, is he crossing the line, or simply safeguarding his position in a high-stakes environment where careers and reputations hang in the balance? While the facts remain unsettled, the rumor itself is powerful enough to shape the conversation. In an industry dominated by star power, big personalities, and carefully managed stories, any hint of insider exploitation raises eyebrows. As the days roll on, one can only brace for further twists, additional leaked communications, dramatic statements, or fresh moves in the legal arena. Each development will offer new clues to the truth behind a partnership that started as a promising collaboration, but devolved into a cautionary tale for anyone who believes Hollywood's biggest showdowns remain confined to the movie screen.